You know what time it is. Inside the Game, episode 206, start of another week here on the National Soccer Network. I'm Nate Wangler. That's Ryan Glinsky. As we get closer and closer to World Cup 2026, got a lot to talk about. Obviously, a wild time in the sports scene. We got NFL playoffs, got college football coming to an end, too. So it is the prime time for people in our positions to talk about everything that's going on. And obviously, some wild stuff, especially when you look at what happened in the NFL over the weekend. Just a lot to touch on, a lot to cover. Ryan, I know you were pretty plugged in for the most part in those games. It's a little bit different when you don't have a horse in the race. Like, I can relate to that. I also don't have a horse in the race with the Lions being out of it, and obviously with Michigan football not being in the picture anymore. But a lot of really good storylines, a lot to touch on, especially on the soccer side of things too. But I know the weekend obviously was an eventful one. But yeah, man, a ton to touch on as we get ready to roll here on Monday.
Yeah, 100%. It's been a big weekend, and let me tell you a story a little bit this weekend.
Little tidbit. All right.
So this weekend, obviously, NFL playoffs. We had the Bears on Saturday and the Rams on Sunday. Which again, Rams Panthers were a lot better than I expected. But anyway, my uncle's birthday was this Saturday. Shout out to you, Uncle Jesse, 50th birthday. But anyway, we're in Frankenmuth. He's celebrating it that way. Here, you get a horn.
Yeah. Woo.
You get 50th birthday, and we're sitting there, and I'm just scrolling through FanDuel here to just see where the lines are at for the game and whatnot. And all of a sudden, my dad and uncle are like, "How much for Caleb Williams? 250 yards?" And I was like, "This, and this." And they're like, "All right." They give me $40, so I place a $40 bet on Caleb Williams to do that. He hits I think 370 is what he actually had. So we should have bet over 300. But anyway, we win the bet of 250, and then they're like, what's some other bets we can place? And I'm looking, and I'm like, Josh Allen for 250 would be a good one. And they're like, all right. So they gave me $50
safe one
to place Josh Allen 250. That one hits. So we turned $90, and by midday Sunday, we had 390. We turned 90 into 390, and it was an unbelievable weekend because the bets hit. Had a great time with the family, but no, that's how I turned $90. That's how we turned $90 into 390, and it's a good feeling. And I don't bet that often, but it wasn't even really my money in to begin with. So it was it was great to have a couple of big wins, especially when your team isn't doing your teams weren't even in anything. The Lions didn't play, obviously, and Michigan sucks. Michigan basketball lost for a damn change. So it's good to see some wins. Good to see some wins.
Yeah.
And
the best kind of betting.
Count.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the same time, right, of course. Well, the best kind of betting is done when it's not your money. I mean, that's the best kind, in my opinion. I believe the last time I was at a casino, it was not my money. I actually refused to spend money because I'm not a gambling person. And, you got to realize I'm not judging anybody if you want to gamble on sports or if you want to do any of that. I have my own personal opinions on how it's affecting sports. I think that, people are, like I said, I think it is not necessarily corroding the sports scene, but I think people are willing to do whatever is necessary to make a few extra dollars. I mean, including college athletes and whoever else needs whatever. And I've seen people that literally, do everything they can to use that money or to bet enough to use that money to pay for certain things, certain daily things, or rent or anything like that. And believe you me, if that's where you're at, I think you have a problem. I'm all for gambling and everything, but if you're like, hey, I need this money, maybe it's time we have a conversation. But yeah, that's the best kind of gambling when it's not your money. The only thing that's weird about sports though is it's not you're not gambling on a card game. You're not gambling on something that, you can actually control or that involves skill. A lot of this comes down to just happenstance. And if I was a gambling man, I would have said Carson Beck would not throw for over 200 yards. I would have failed that one, right? If I was a betting man, I probably wouldn't have bet that the Bears would be able to come back and win that football game against the Packers. Now, I know that's not an official line.
You could based on how they come back.
That's true.
And I'm sure I didn't do any live betting for that game, but I'm sure the line probably wasn't that crazy because they always come back in the fourth quarter. Now, the issue is, now that they play the Rams, they might not be able to come back because the deficit might be so insurmountable at that point. But I think
Well,
I think you could have, and you would have been right
well,
90% of the time.
I mean, the Rams didn't look all that great against the Panthers, but they got the job done late in the fourth quarter. Stafford, little back shoulder pass, that was crispy too, man. He put it in the right spot.
He's good.
Every single passing game, every single passing playoff win, I miss him more and more. I know that obviously Goff is not our issue in Detroit, but I continue to miss that man more and more with every single passing throw. So now that Ryan Glinsky has a little bit more padding in his pockets, we're ready to go here on Monday. Welcome back in. National Soccer Network. Make sure you give us a follow, whatever social media platform you are watching us on. Again, we are live Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m., giving you both a look at the soccer world as well as all sports. But let's dive into something we did last week here on the National Soccer Network, which was cool. It was unique. It was the first time it had ever been done, and that was the Mac Hermann Trophy. The Heisman of college soccer was given out to a few lucky recipients, and one name that is actually really familiar to us here at the National Soccer Network. But one man, one woman. Ryan, let's get into that a little bit.
Let's start off on the men's side. Donovan Phil. Actually, we'll look at the finalists. Obviously, just to refresh everyone's mind: Richie Amon of Washington, Junior Juve, of Grand Canyon, and Donovan Phillip for NC State and his 19 goals and 2 assists, and of course Flint City team member as well. But Donovan Phillip on the men's side of the Mac Hermann Trophy, and obviously, if you followed the NCAA tournament at all, they of course were a finalist in that, and he did score a goal in that game. But congratulations to Donovan Phillip and NC State. I wonder how maybe awkward it was seeing Richie Amon of Washington there, who just won the national championship, and his head coach Jamie Clark. Then you had Mark Hubbard for NC State, the head coach. They were there. Maybe they shared a couple of laughs or talked about the game at all. Maybe they didn't even want to talk to each other. I don't know. I wasn't there. But shout out to Donovan Phillip for winning that. And NC State. They had an incredible year this year. And, congratulations to Donovan Phillip and the Wolfpack.
I think there's a mutual level of respect when it comes to when you make it to a national championship, whether it be between players or coaches or anybody else along those lines. So I imagine that the conversations were probably cordial, but talking about Donovan Phillip specifically, obviously plays for Flint City. That's a team that, we talk about the reputation, the history, everything else behind that. But yeah, 16-3-4 season, 19 goals, 2 assists on the year, first team All-American, obviously the ACC Offensive Player of the Year, and now the Heisman in college soccer. And obviously disappointing that they couldn't finish, disappointing that they couldn't win a national championship. But I think sometimes people forget just how hard it is to get to a national championship. Like, it's one thing to win a national title, but to get to a national title is just as hard. So the fact that Donovan Phillip and NC State were able to get all the way there is amazing. And obviously here on the National Soccer Network, we were very gracious for Mark Hubbard to stop by our show and get the chance to talk to us once upon a time. I know you were really busy sending out all those emails for a while and talking to coaches, and he provided us a lot of good information. Here's what I'll say about Donovan Phillip, and it's, I'm not the best talent scout when it comes to the game of soccer/football. Reason being is because I didn't play it, right? Like, there's certain things that I feel like scouts and even yourself, right? I'm sure you can be able to look at a player and see certain intangibles about a player that you're like, that will translate up the ladder. Like, I don't care where Donovan Phillip goes, if he plays overseas, if he plays in Major League Soccer, like wherever his career takes him beyond this point, I'm sure that you, as someone who played the game, even JT for that matter, or anybody else, can probably look at him and go, hey, here are things that I love about this kid. But I'll never forget when I did a game with Neil Rule, and to those who are listening from a national perspective, Neil Rule does the games for Detroit City FC and here in Detroit. Well, I say you're in Detroit, I'm in Grand Rapids. But anyways, beyond the point, does their games. And I remember doing a game with him, and one of the things he talked about was, we get so caught up in, the game of soccer is obviously it's about skill. It's about improv. It's about being good on the ball and coming up with creative ways to beat the man that's in front of you. Because really this game comes down to one-on-ones, right? You have to beat the man in front of you. That's what this game is. And we were talking a lot about that and, getting into how the United States is becoming more of an individually creative country when it comes to the sport of soccer. It's less what it used to be. But the truth is that physicality still matters in this game just as much as all that other stuff, right? Physically speaking, if you can establish yourself and if you can battle into good positions and put yourself in the right spot, that still matters. And what I'll say is that Donovan Phillip is a head above everybody else in that department. He also has wider shoulders, I think, than anybody else in college soccer as well. I mean, from a size perspective, and we talk about we have an all sports portion of this podcast, he could very well be on that portion of the podcast as well with how he is.
He could be a linebacker.
Physically speaking, it's what I'm saying. Physically speaking, when we saw him playing
for wide receiver,
that's what exactly, or tight end or something else along those lines, a lead blocker, a fullback. But from that perspective, when we watched them play, that was the one thing that really popped out to me when I looked at Donovan Phillip is, man, this kid is a physical specimen. And with Flint City, you could tell just from watching that, he was a head and shoulders above everybody. And so I think he has both. I think he was individually creative. I also think physically speaking, he was dominant. And I think that's what carried him into a lot of really good spots. So I don't know what's up and what's next in his career. I don't know what the next step is. Obviously we talk about the pipeline in the United States is not clearly defined on the men's side. You got some that are playing college soccer. You have obviously some that are in the academies that are getting a leg up on that. I don't know what the next step is in the career of someone like Donovan Phillip, but what I will say is that he's going to make an impact somewhere on some professional team because he is creative individually with the ball. He's good with the ball on his foot, but he's also a physical specimen at the same exact time.
Yeah, he is, and he can also play he can play a variety of different roles. Even drop into the 10 and can play as a sole number 9, and he can even play out wide. So he can do just about any single thing. And it's also worth mentioning that the Matt Herman had 17,000 views on our Roku channel or on our platform this past Friday. So shout out to anyone that's tuning into our show and also tuned into the Matt Herman Trophy as well on Friday here on the National Soccer Network. But let's transition over to the women's side and just a refresher on who were the finalists. Again, so I said Aiki this past week, but then I heard a broadcaster say Aiki. So again, I have no idea how to pronounce Jasmine. I'm gonna go with Aiki. I'm gonna go with the broadcaster's word. Jasmine Aiki of Stanford, 21 goals, 11 assists. Jordan Dudley of Florida State, 11 goals and 14 assists, and Izzy Engel, 19 goals and 6 assists. And Jasmine Aiki is your Matt Herman Women's Soccer Trophy winner. And Nate, I talked about the similarities of both of these finalists, men and the women's, of two players that were a finalist and a champion, and one really young player. And the similarities don't stop there, as the finalists each had a winner. So Stanford, of course, lost to Florida State in the national championship game, and Aiki is the winner. NC State loses to Washington in the national championship game, and an NC State player is a winner. So the similarities continue here. But looking at Aiki, and then when I was looking at her profile, she was also during the Pac-12 days of Stanford. I totally forgot that they were in the Pac-12 at some point, but she was also a Pac-12 champion along with being a ACC champion this past year. But no, I totally forgot that Stanford was even in the Pac-12 at some point. But that's just kind of the crazy world that, someone that could have, including myself as someone joining college, let's say I was a college athlete coming in 2021, even 2022 even, you could have been in one conference and then all of a sudden you're in another conference, and the ever-changing landscape that is college athletics today, starting in 2024 last year when everything kind of changed. But I totally forgot that there was even a Pac-12, and I think they are making a bit of a comeback just with different teams. But I think at some point, again, conversation for a different day, but I think at some point, I think we could go back to it, because if I'm the West Coast teams, I got to be pretty pissed off in terms of the travel all the time. Like USC basketball was for 10 days was in Michigan to play Michigan and Michigan State, now Minnesota. Yeah. I just think it's dumb now. But again, totally forgot there was a Pac-12. But again, congratulations to Stanford and Jasmine Aiki of winning the women's Matt Herman.
Yeah, obviously I want to talk about Jasmine Aiki, but just a quick aside about that. I mean, I feel like the decision to join the Big Ten really kind of came down to like football.
And basketball. Mainly football.
Mainly football. A little bit of basketball, So like that's the thing. Like all these other programs, it's just kind of a deal with it kind of situation. Like, hey, sorry, I know that it would be far more comfortable for you guys to just play teams that are on the West Coast, and that would make sense. And conferences don't make sense to me anymore, generally speaking, Ryan, because I used to tend to believe that conferences were based off of geographical location, right? Like if you play in the Midwest, you're going to be a conference in the Midwest, right? If you play on the East Coast, you're going to be an East Coast conference. Well, so whatever it is, the Big Ten is obviously not 10 schools anymore. So that's what I love when people are like, hey, pretend I'm an alien and teach me what this means. Teach me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We learned that in middle school. I'm an alien. Teach me how to do this, right? It's learning how to like critically think. But if someone were to come up to me and be like, hey, explain college conferences to me. I'm new to this. Explain it to me. I'd be like, your guess is as good as mine, buddy. The Big Ten is 17 schools, 49 million schools. It's not 10, so I don't even know why we have the number in there. But either way, Jasmine Akey, what an unbelievable season. 21 goals, all ACC first team selection, at least 1 point in 20 of her 25 matches. You talk about an impact player. Yeah, you could say so. And the truth is that a lot of times, you're going to see, and we even see this with college football. And now, mind you, the Heisman is before the national championship in football. So that's before a little bit different even. Before the playoff, right? So in soccer, it's different. Like you wait until after the national championship and then we make this decision. Whereas in football, it's a little bit different. But generally speaking, the teams that have the best record are going to have the best chances of having the best individual player. And there's nothing wrong with that because I do think Jasmine Akey is one of the best players in the country. Certainly she wouldn't be on this ballot if she wasn't. She wouldn't be winning it. But unbelievable year for her, man. There were a lot of great selections specifically out of the ACC when you look at that conference, but was really a leader for this team, vocal leader, emotional leader. It's something they talked about a lot when it came to Jasmine Akey, and obviously all the intangibles too. And I got to give a shout out to the ACC because they just continue to do it year after year. When we talk about the women's side of the game, and again, I know I mentioned that specifically when it comes to college soccer, we did a lot as it pertained to our previews. The ACC is the best conference in the country, and they continue to be the best conference in the country. And it's really kind of a hands down situation. You look at all the teams across the way. I know the Big 12 has some good squads. I know the Big 10 is getting better. But the ACC is the conference. And so Jasmine Akey, obviously a glowing example of what that conference is and someone that'll probably find herself in the NWSL here pretty soon and hopefully becomes a part of that player pool for the U.S. women's national team eventually, because that's where the conversation is going to switch after 2026. When we start talking about 2027, now we're talking about the U.S. women's national team getting back to the top of the mountain. Obviously lost in the last World Cup, won back-to-backs before that one. So will Akey be a part of those conversations? Will she be in that mix, in that group? That's a tough group to break into because of how big the player pool is. And obviously Emma Hayes has, it's tough. It's hard to come into a really good situation and somehow make it better. But that's exactly what Emma Hayes has done with the U.S. women's national team. They were great. They were winning, World Cups and gold medals and everything else. Emma Hayes comes in and completely overhauls the whole thing. And now it's better than what it even was. She's built a juggernaut. So I don't think it's ridiculous to see someone like Jasmine Akey could find herself in that mix, in that group at some point. So again, congratulations to her. Congratulations to Stanford. It's really cool to see you guys go all that way. And obviously congrats on getting Davis Warren too. All right. Take care of him. All right. He means a lot.
Cancer,
he means a lot.
Survivor.
Means a lot to a lot of people over here, including Ryan and myself. But that's a look at your Mac Herman Trophy winners.
I will say I wouldn't say Emma Hayes has done a better job than the previous ones because she's only won a gold medal. She hasn't done anything in the World Cup, so we will still. I wouldn't go that far yet, Nate. She hasn't won a World Cup in the previous regime.
Oh, I know.
The previous regime has won, as you can see behind me, at least won on that one, and then they won in 2019. So I wouldn't go that far yet, Nate. I wouldn't go that far yet. I'd slow the roll on Emma Hayes. I don't know if you just really like her hoodie/blazer combo.
I like the fact that she wants to be an honorary American. That's what I like. I like my coaches that are trying trying to get into it, like Mauricio Pochettino falling in love with Miracle, man.
If Emma Hayes likes Miracle all of a sudden, would you like she's the greatest coach ever with the women's national team? Would you say that if
of
she
course.
likes? Okay.
If that's her favorite movie ever, of course. Yes, of course.
Oh boy.
No, I listen, I know from accomplishment perspectives, I know she's not, but she's built the player pool to a point to where I would be shocked if they don't at least make the World Cup final in 2027. Shocked if they didn't at least make the final. So, from my perspective, that's just is what it is. But Jasmine Akey, again, congratulations, congrats, but to both of them, and obviously a big move here on the National Soccer Network, having it on our platform. And man, we continue to talk about this, right? Media coverage is the key to making this game, continuing to make this game better and bigger in the United States. But moving on from that conversation, congratulations, Donovan Phillip, Jasmine Akey, well-deserving, and congrats on another successful season. Hopefully we can get the likes of Mark Hubbard back on our show, as well as Washington's head coach. I'm blanking on his name right now. What's his name? Jamie Clark. You got the chance to talk to him. So hopefully both Jamie Clark and Mark Hubbard can make their way back onto our show coming up here shortly. Expect both of them to be back in the running next year. But let's move on to a little Major League Soccer talk. I know we're getting deeper into hour number one. You had mentioned last week, and I know we talked about it, potentially Weston McKennie coming back to the United States in Major League Soccer. It's tough having to earn his spot every single year. We talked about the bias against American soccer players. I don't believe that Weston McKennie is coming back to Major League Soccer, but
I don't think so.
There was recent news about another U.S. men's national team player that is being offered a major lump sum of money in MLS standards to come back and play. Would be the third, I believe what you said, the third highest transfer in the history of Major League Soccer to come back and play in the United States. Ryan, give us the lowdown.
Yeah, so Josh Sargent, obviously he started the year off well with Norwich, but has struggled recently. Only 2 goals in the last 20 matches. But he could potentially be on the move to Toronto FC, as Toronto FC has launched a bid, according to Fabrizio Romano, to Norwich City about Josh Sargent. $18 million bid, which $18 million for Josh Sargent, just crazy in my opinion. But he's 7 goals, 3 assists this year in all competitions for Sargent. He scored recently in the championship twice in the last 3 weeks or so. But he would be the third highest MLS transfer. And again, this isn't a Josh Sargent thing, but actually we'll get to if the move is right or not for him. But there's something else we'd rather talk about in terms of the MLS. But Josh Sargent, he had an opportunity to move back to the Bundesliga. I forgot the exact team what it was, but he had an opportunity to move to the Bundesliga. Said no, decided, and he would have been a first tier player up there, but decided to stay in Norwich. Looked like a good start. Has struggled as of recently in the last couple of months or so compared to that hot start he had. Hasn't really done anything with the national team. It kind of seems like he's just floating around in terms of the U.S. men's national team pool. Doesn't even really score a lot for the men's national team. I think there's a couple players ahead of him, Balogun and Pepe being the 2. And, it just seems like an odd move for Sargent at this point in his career. Maybe he's just cashing in on a bag. I know Toronto has struggled in terms of recent years in the MLS. Again, Sargent, I think it is personally a move to just continue to get his confidence up because he hasn't done a ton in terms of Norwich, and he struggled recently. But, yeah, that's all I really think of it. But I have something else to say about this move.
All right, well, we'll get to that here in a second. And you can just let it fly, man. I mean, all I'll say about this, it would be interesting to see Josh Sargent be the third highest transfer in Major League Soccer, simply because Son Heung-min, I think, was $22 million they gave
26.
him. 26 million to come play, which, I mean, makes sense. He has a reputation, he has a history, and man, I remember the start that Josh Sargent had of the year. I mean, when like the first couple of weeks of the year, we were seriously talking about, like, could this guy be like the striker, the main striker on the U.S. men's national team with the way that he started? Obviously, he has since teetered off and has left those conversations. But I guess I have a question for you, because when we talk about, this would be, not a good look for Major League Soccer. all the conversations that we've had around, obviously growing the game, getting people to really pay attention, specifically to just American players in general, right? To have one of our own that really creates and curates something within Major League Soccer that can draw more American fans to watching the game. Lionel Messi outsells the U.S. men's national team in jersey sales. Obviously, when you have the GOAT playing in your league, and there is a reason for that, right? He is the GOAT. That's what I'm saying. So when you have the GOAT, that makes sense. Son Heung-min obviously carries a lot of reputation with him and a resume with him. But is it just because of appearances in your mind that this would not be a good move? Or is it something else along those lines? Because in my opinion, getting Josh Sargent to come back to the U.S. and play in Major League Soccer, not saying that it creates okay, Canada, but North America, but you know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
To get him to come back to play, I'm not saying it right away could create some sort of avalanche or that all of a sudden American players are going to drop everything they're doing and come back to the United States and start playing. That's not what I'm saying. But if Major League Soccer wants to find someone who was born here that could potentially be one of the faces of Major League Soccer, someone you could put in commercials, someone you could put wherever else, not that that's necessarily going to change everything overnight, outside of appearances, outside of $18 million for someone like Josh Sargent, who would actually be willing to pay that amount of money, why in your mind would this be a bad thing outside of appearances, outside of just simply we spent $18 million on a guy that probably does not deserve $18 million, but we did it because we want to bring him back to North America to play in this league. So again, we can continue to get more eyes on Major League Soccer. What is it specifically about this move that doesn't sit well with you?
Because we're a league that is trying to grow, and we're a team in the MLS is overpaying $18 million for Josh Sargent. Like, let's
wouldn't you be willing to admit though that you would have to overpay a little bit, that you would have to overcompensate in order to get those players?
You could, but again, Josh Sargent isn't good. Like, it's just, let's call it how it is. He's not a good soccer player. He's doing well in the championship. He might come over here and score 20 goals a game, but if we think about it, he in terms of being a face of the MLS, this doesn't do anything because he's not even in the discussion to make the U.S. men's national team. Really, I mean, sure he might be in the discussion, but he's never going to play. Like, there are strikers, like I mentioned, Balogun. I mentioned I just mentioned him, Balogun and Pepe. Pepe's valued around $35-40 million right now. Whether that should be true right now, I don't think so. He's potentially on the move to Newcastle, a Premier League club. Sargent, on the other hand, we're basically overpaying. The MLS is basically overpaying for a fourth string U.S. men's national team striker. That's basically what it is right now. That's what you're doing. That's not a good look. That is not a good look if you're a league. And if you look at the overall transfers, Heung-min Son is number 1, Emmanuel Laith is number 2 at $22 million, and then you go to third, Kevin Denke is $16 million to Cincinnati. So Josh Sargent is immediately put into a category where he's this really good player in terms of the MLS standards, but if we look at the grand scheme of things, the world stage, the men's national team stage, he doesn't even come close to really anything. Like, I don't even know his men's national team scoring record, but it's not good. I'll tell you that. And he can't even get a call. He hasn't been called up since that Japan window, which I think was September. And it's not a good look for an MLS Major League look. And again, I don't think if you're an American soccer player and you're trying to make it overseas and you're a young player, like Sargent's age, I think is low 20s. I think
25.
25.
Yep.
I thought 23. But so that's kind of the window where you continue to try to make that jump into your prime. Do you try to do that? So I think he's a good age to make that decision. But I just don't buy. I don't think it's a good look for the league. It's not, because you're overpaying for a fourth string striker. And
but do you have to be someone that is considered one of the best, or at least let's put it in perspective here, right? A front runner, someone who's going to play significant minutes on that 26 World Cup team. Do you have to be one of those guys to still be really successful in Major League Soccer? I mean, let's think about it for a second, right? Like, he could still have a lot of success in the MLS without being one of our top guys, right? And so from a league perspective, it might be a benefit. Maybe not from a U.S. men's national team perspective. I don't really think it changes anything from that way. But I still think he would be one of the top players in the league.
He would, but it's not like he's a good. What I'm looking at here is what I'm looking at is you're a second tier English player, which again, some people could argue that the championship is a better league than the MLS or not. That's totally different discussion. What we're looking at as the league here, you're taking the fourth string striker of the U.S. men's national team. Again, isn't a world power, isn't this great league, or isn't this great team and doesn't have a history of it. Sure, Sargent might be a good player in terms of MLS standards. But again, the conversation we had last week was how do we kind of turn some of these American viewers from Europe into becoming more MLS fans? How do we continue to grow this league? And this move doesn't do it. If anything, it's just proven what we've all thought before. It's just the rejects of Europe. That's all this league continues to be. And whether Sargent can continue to stay, I don't even know if Norwich would want to keep him, or if they do want to keep him. I don't know that aspect. But this move simply seems like Sargent struggling in Europe for a couple of years here. Maybe just wants to get consistent game time. He knows he can do that in the MLS. That's what it feels like to me, is he just is making a move because he can't make it work in Europe. And it continues to be an MLS, not MLS reject. The MLS continues to just be some rejects from Europe or a retirement league. That's what we've said the MLS has been. And people don't like saying it's a retirement league. And it kind of is. And we're looking at rejects going into the MLS. That's what it feels like. And if I'm the MLS and Josh Sargent, someone who struggled in the championship, struggled in the Bundesliga years ago, this move doesn't move the needle in terms of the MLS. It kind of looks like a bad look that he's the third highest transfer of all time. That's all I'm saying it is. And again, it's super beneficial for Sargent in himself. He's closer to home. He's going to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. He's going to score a ton of goals. But in terms of the MLS, it doesn't look good.
No, and listen, I get it, man. I completely understand what you're saying. The only perspective that I'm coming from, right, is they don't have any other options. Like, they need to overcompensate in order to get any of these guys to come back and play. It is what it is.
Prime, younger age.
In their prime.
Because you don't have to overpay when they're 34, 33.
Right. Like, it when they're at the very end of their career. Like, if Christian Pulisic if he's still playing at 34, 35 years old, if he comes back to Major League Soccer, like, naturally, this is, he's at that point where he can't hang around in Europe anymore. I wouldn't call him a reject, right? Like, he's had a long, successful career, regardless of what league that he's been in. Obviously, he's dominating Serie A right now. And this extends out to any U.S. men's national team player. Like, a lot of them eventually come back and they play in Major League Soccer. But unless you're talking about the 90s when the league started, right? Obviously, players came back in droves because they're like, wow, this is cool. Like, the U.S. is getting a professional league. Like, why would we not want to come back and play? Why would we not want to come back and try and make an impact on the American soccer scene? Now it's a little bit different, obviously, because the money is much different. The competition, I think once Americans realize that they can implement themselves overseas, they took every single available opportunity to do so. But I don't see a world in which the Major League Soccer can actually get top-end North American talent to come back and play in their prime without going, hey, you know what? Josh Sargent is not worth $18 million. Can we agree on this?
To overpay.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying it's a bad look for the league for him to come back.
It might be,
to pay that way. Sure, you have to overpay a little bit. Like, if you look at Chucky Lozano, that's another example. He came over in his prime because he couldn't make it work in the Netherlands or in Italy, and you paid $14 million for it. And it just shows that I think it's just a bad look. It's a bad look for the league because you're overpaying for mid players that can't make it over there in Europe. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just if I'm the MLS, I feel like I don't know what the solution is, but it just looks bad. That's all I'm saying. It looks bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. It's not the most flattering look. It's not the most flattering look for Toronto. It's not the most flattering. It would not be the most flattering look in the world for Josh Sargent. But in my mind, it's almost, again, it's just one of those things where it's like they're gonna have to overcompensate one way or another. It's no different than a franchise that people don't want to go play for. They're like, oh, you spent that much money on that guy, really? You know what I mean? Like, I think about the Tigers. Like, how many millions did you spend on Javier Baez? Really?
So Weston McKennie right now is valued at $22 million. What do you think an MLS club would have to pay to get a Weston McKennie?
I mean, he's probably 30 easily, if not more than that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if I'm Weston McKennie's agent too, I'm not accepting anything less than that. There's
so.
But anyways, go ahead.
So again, in terms of agent, that doesn't matter. In terms of the agent doesn't decide the transfer value. That's the club decides the transfer value. But now, if you let's go to, he's right now making 61,000 euros. So he's making 2.5 million euros a year. What if you're Weston McKennie? How much do you have to make in order to? How much would you say you need in order to get? Because you can negotiate your contract. The player cannot negotiate his transfer deal. That's up to the club. But how much would you ask for after making 2.5 million euros over in Europe? How much would you charge? How much would you want? How many millions of dollars would you need a year if you're Weston McKennie?
What's the currency? So that's the thing.
He's basically making $3 million a year.
Weston McKennie is.
Yes, basically making.
So
$3 million.
How much would he have to make a year? That's what you're asking him. How much would he have to make a year here?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what these contracts are valued at. Probably 5-6 million. I'm guessing. I'm just gonna blanket statement this. I'm guessing probably twice as much as what he's making there. My guess is if I'm an agent, right? If I'm Weston McKennie's agent and I'm going into these conversations, I'm not accepting anything less than twice what he's making over there to come back to the U.S. At least from my perspective.
So $6
right?
million.
And yes,
so $6 million
at least. I mean, is that fair? Do you think that a number like
fair.
that is probably fair? Okay.
I think that's fair. And if we look at Sargent weekly wage or contract, that's not. I just typed in Sargent and something completely different came up. But I think though that he's got to be making something decent. Because if we look here in terms of what he could have gone to Wolfsburg for around 30 million. Sargent could have. So maybe it's an underpay at that point. So 390,000 a year is what it looks like for Sargent. So would he want $1 million a year? Would that be a fair assessment? He'd want $1 million a year. Because he's still 25 or 25.
I guess you make a good point. Yeah, I guess you make a good point.
Because it's not like he's not playing. He still gets games, and maybe it's a homesick thing. I don't know. Maybe he wants to be a little bit closer to home, which is Missouri. Which I don't know why he'd go to Toronto. If that's the case, it's still cold up there. But I think that you would have to, in terms of the contract, I think he would want $1 million a year. I think that's what he would want. Because I think you have to overpay in terms of the contract. I don't necessarily know about the value from the team, but again, I think you have to overpay in terms of every contract. If you want to get them in their prime, you have to overpay contracts. That's my thing. But I think that wraps it up for soccer.
Well, let's talk about one last thing before we go. I don't know if you have the graphic at all pulled up.
Yeah.
France's kit that they debuted yesterday for the 2026 World Cup. Ooh, the green with the Nike swoosh, gold numbers.
Leaked. It's
obviously,
not confirmed. It's not confirmed.
Mbappe. All right, it's leaked. All right, okay, that's fair enough. Listen, man, I like the look. What do you think?
I like the look. I know you have a little bone to pick, but I think it's a cool looking jersey. I know it's not French colors, but at the same time, most of these soccer jerseys, if you go around the world, are not the club's colors, or sometimes it's not the nation's colors. But I think it's fine, because if you think about it, Statue of Liberty was a gift to the United States. The world excuse me, I was mispunch. A gift to the United States. Obviously, it was bronze and, rusted into to what it is now. But no, I think it's a fine kit. It's a good look. It's better than what the 2022 World Cup was looking like for most of these teams. So I think it's fine. And I like the little salute to the United States in terms of it. So I think it's fine. I know you got a little bone to pick.
Oh yeah. My only thing is, man, it must be a soccer thing, right? Like, I think it is, and to that extent,
well, you make
fine,
jerseys
man.
every year.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so like, I get it, but like, the U.S. Would not go to an international tournament, World Cup or otherwise, and not wear red, white, and blue, right? Like, I feel like Canada would not go to an international tournament, World Cup or otherwise, and not wear the maple leaf or red or white. Like, that's the only thing that's confusing to me. Like, there's not even a hint of blue or anything in this uniform. Like, I know that it's France. I know that it's France when they're out in the field, so why does it make it any different? And I'm not saying they're not cool unis. I would love to wear those unis. I'd love to order me one. But I just think it's peculiar that they don't have any of the nation's colors in this game at all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I got to say. But I know you and I obviously want to kind of go through and break down all of our World Cup uniforms
when they come out.
When they come out. So we'll do that. But for now, that'll end the soccer portion of Inside the Game here today. Again, we appreciate everybody who comes back and watches us day after day, weekdays 9 to 11 a.m. Make sure you follow us on the National Soccer Network. We're going to be posting about this podcast all the time. Also, if you want to get your live comments in on the show, we will address them here. You guys love to blow us up in the comment section on social media, and that's great, but we would love the opportunity to talk about your comments live. And the only way we can do that is if you watch our show live, whether that be on TikTok, whether that be on anywhere else. We get a lot of comments on TikTok. Shout out to people that commented our last show. But that's your opportunity to get your word in on our show. If you think we're idiots, tell us, okay? But tell us live, right? So I can defend myself live. I don't have to like use my thumbs to be like,
yeah.
How dare you? How dare you speak that way to me? But anyways, coming up next, all sports right here on Inside the Game. Welcome back. Inside the Game. Wow, that was quick. I thought there was one more commercial. I'm over here like, thinking about what I'm going to say next. And then we just cut right by. Oh, hey. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky, Inside the Game. We're going into our all sports section of our podcast here on Monday. Ryan Glinsky, it was a raucous, wild weekend in so many different ways. the beauty of being a play-by-play broadcaster is you get to always be involved in the game. Sometimes the drawback is you don't get to sit back and watch the games as they happen.
Yeah.
But for me personally, my best friend, I told him I'd give him a little shout out on the show today because he's feeling a little down in the dumps. Is an Oregon fan. Fell in love with Marcus Mariota once upon a time, and the jerseys and the uniforms. And so he has been on the Oregon train ever since. A kid from Grand Rapids, Michigan, has been watching Oregon ever since the Pac-12 after dark days. My man was staying up
jerseys,
until
I won't lie.
my man was staying up until 11 o'clock watching Oregon. Which, hey man, fair enough. Like they best uniform combos in the country. I'll give. They always look clean, and they don't always play clean, but they look clean. But yeah, shout out AJ, buddy. I know you're going through it between last year against Ohio State, then obviously this year against Indiana. You know, it's funny. Yeah. Well, and he said, and I love him for this, and I respect him too. Like, I want to spend time around my friends, and obviously I want to watch these games, but I'm like, so I'm coming over to watch, right? And he's like, no. He's like, no one is coming.
That's fair.
No one is coming. I'm watching it by myself. He goes, if this goes the way I think it might go, no one's coming over. Which obviously the first game against Oregon was not nearly like this, but yeah, it was like they were playing an FCS school out there. It was bad.
Question for you, Nate.
What's up?
So my friends and I debate this a couple times, and I necessarily don't want to do this because we talk about going. You go to bars to watch games. You tailgate, like I tailgated for Michigan OSU. Went to a bar, watched the game. But the bad thing is, for me personally, is when it's a game of that magnitude, like Michigan played CMU, I went to the bar, no problem, because Michigan was going to win. That's what I knew. But if it's a big game, whether that's Michigan, whether that's the Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons in the playoffs, whatever it is, would you go to a bar to watch it, or do you need to sit at home to watch it because you don't want to watch it in the bar? Because I personally do not want to watch. I can watch it with a couple buddies, that's fine, but I cannot watch if it's a massive game. I cannot watch it in a bar. I can't.
So here's the thing, and I even told my girlfriend this. I go, 364 days out of the year, you can watch sports with me. Like, I'm good. Playoffs, big games, even the Cubs World Series. Like if any of one of those games, if you want to sit next to me and watch it, that's fine. When Michigan plays Ohio State, I don't want to be around anybody. Okay, because I don't want to hear you ask me, ooh, what happened on that play? Ooh, why did they throw that flag? Ooh, what's going on? No!
Look what someone did on
Instagram. The game. What's that?
Look what someone posted on Instagram. They went here over Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Hey,
could
look
care
at this
less.
vacation. No, leave me alone. All right, I don't want to hear questions about the sport. I don't want to hear, oh, he looks angry, or no. I don't want the peanut gallery.
Exactly.
Right? Because I'm bothered. I am ornery. I'm pissed off. All right. I might be happy, but either way, I'm sitting on the edge of my chair. Now, the Cubs World Series, that might be an extreme example, but you get my point, right? Like Michigan and Ohio State, no one can be around me, minus maybe my father, because he's the same exact way. He ain't going to be saying anything. He's just going to be sitting there watching. I cannot do it. And this isn't an arrogant sports person thing. Like, I know more about the sport than you do. This is just I am locked.
Yeah.
And you cannot talk to me when I'm locked.
You can't.
Yeah, I don't care.
I agree with you.
I simply cannot do it. So no, I will not go to the bar to watch those games. Like the Lions making it to the Super Bowl, or if they made it to the Super Bowl, that's a little bit different. Like I want to be in the atmosphere. I want to be around the people. You know,
it's never happened.
Yeah, because it's never happened, right? There's other right? Like even Chicago. Like I wish I would have gone down to Chicago just to be in the scene for that Game 7. Now, obviously, there were reasons why I couldn't do that, but there are exceptions to that rule. But even like, bless my mom, she's the most
Can't
wonderful
watch it with
woman.
your mom? Wow,
wonderful woman on the
That's
planet.
horrible.
She is the greatest woman I've ever met in my life. But I swear, if she asks me one more question about how football works in the middle of me watching Michigan, Ohio State, I might just have to walk out of the house. I can't.
You're a horrible son. Nate, you're a horrible son.
I know, terrible.
What about,
absolutely terrible.
I just had. Oh, are you superstitious? Are you superstitious about watching games? Like you have to.
Yes.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I'm glad we're aligned. I'm glad we're aligned.
No, I mean, even like the Whitecaps Midwest League Championship game, man. I mean, when we were leading by 1 into the 6th inning, I didn't want to touch anything.
That's
I didn't
fair.
want to move. I mean, I had to pee. I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not going. Wolf of
I
Wall
might
Street.
not make it
you
this
know,
broadcast.
I'm not going.
I have a superstition, which is my great uncle. We've made this rule where, because again, we like all the same teams, but if a team wins a big game, whether that's Michigan beating Ohio State, whether that's the Lions win playoff game, winning the division, whatever, he has to text me first, and before we can talk about the game and engage with the game, he has to text me first. And there was one time where the Lions won the division or won a really big game. I forgot what it was, and he didn't text. And I really needed to talk about the game with him because there were some things that we pointed out beforehand where we needed to talk about. And I go, "Hey, Dad, could you text him real quick to say that he needs to text me about the game because I can't text first. It's going to break the rule, and the Lions might suck for the rest of the season. So he's got to text me first." That's what it is. Like, superstitions die hard. And if you're a sports fan, honestly, if you're a sports fan and you don't have a superstition about any of your teams, are you truly a fan? Like, are you actually a real fan if you don't have a superstition? Because I think you do. I think you need some sort of superstition, whether that's a lucky jersey that you wear, lucky underwear that you wear, or certain spot where you have to sit on the couch to watch the game, or you have to watch it with a certain person. Maybe you have a certain drink. But I think you have to have a superstition in order to be a diehard sports fan. Like, if I'm watching the USA World Cup this year, and in Game 1 against Paraguay, and I happen to be wearing something, and Pulisic goes off, scores a hat trick, you bet your ass that I am wearing that jersey that shirt the rest of the way until they get knocked out. Like, that's what it is.
Have you seen Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
No, I've seen stuff here and there, but I've never actually watched it.
All right. Well, it's based in Philadelphia. But
we might have to talk about Wrexham this week. They've been insane. Just putting it out there. We may have to talk about Wrexham.
All right. We'll get to it. No, I agree, and they're a fun story too. But obviously based in Philly. But there's an episode in that, and talking about my buddy AJ, diehard Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. Like, that's his show. And there's an episode. Obviously, they're all Eagles fans, where they have to get their colors in. Right. So they have to do things that match the colors of the Eagles. Right. So I forget what their thing is, but they have to do one thing for each color. Right.
So green and white.
And green, white, black. I forget. Like I said, I'm going to sound like an idiot. If you're a viewer and you're watching this show and you want to leave a comment as to what it is specifically, maybe you can look it up online. But there's an episode about all the superstitions that they have to go through in order for the Eagles to win.
Midnight green, silver, black, and white. I didn't even know silver was a part of it, but all right.
But anyways, so that's their big thing. So it's a hilarious episode, very funny. My buddy AJ is the same exact way. He has to get his colors in. So he will green, yellow, and brown. So the green, I'll leave that to you. What do you think he does for the green? Could be a couple of different things. Yellow is beer.
What does getting your colors in? I've never heard that. What does that mean?
It means doing something that involves the colors of the team that you're cheering for.
Oh, okay. So like the Lions, for instance, I'd have to eat like blueberries or
yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
Or
never
like
heard that.
Ice cream and blueberries. You know what I mean? Like white and blue and white. You know, so like that's you have your blueberry ice cream before you watch the game, and you're like, somehow that'll magically help them win. AJ is like this because he will do all of his colors. And then his last color, I believe, is yellow, obviously beer. And then he goes brown to stuff it down. So that means whiskey.
Okay.
And he will do this every game day. Not.
You could take one.
Going to the bathroom?
Yeah.
To take one?
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean,
it
it's
could
brown.
be. Maybe it is brown, but if you can't get it in before the game, then you're screwed, right? So I mean, keep in mind, like, you gotta rely on your body to act the right way in that situation. But he will do all of these superstitions. He is dedicated to it to a T. You watch them lose in the national championship game. He watched them lose last year. He watched them lose this year, and I keep telling him, man, I'm like, hey. Maybe the superstitions are not working for you. Maybe you got to mix it up a little bit.
Or get rid of it.
He will not have it.
Oh.
He will not have it. He will continue to do it. But they're going to need something a little bit more than obviously superstitions to get Oregon over the hump. Because my guy literally just texted me, I think, minutes ago, because we all play Fortnite together. You just texted me minutes ago. He's like, hey, I should be on tonight. I'm like, I haven't heard from you in days. It's been rough.
Quick side note: have you played Fortnite recently? Like within the last couple? Have you played the South Park version of Fortnite? No.
I heard it's here. Is it right now?
Yeah.
I haven't played it.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. No, because they were doing Simpsons, which was really funny. You could walk in and there's a few different things you could do. Like there was a couch you could sit on all together.
Yeah, it came out
you could
3
do
days
like
ago.
all the. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So good. All right. Well, thanks.
So
I got to update
tonight. Play tonight. Come back to me tomorrow. We can start the show off that way because I may want to re-download Fortnite. I have not played Fortnite in probably since 2021. So
all right. Well, if you want to shoot me your gamer tag, I mean, you might have some updates that you need to
probably.
to get done.
I should probably update the game tonight.
But
probably
okay,
update that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey, if anybody else wants to play Fortnite, drop your drop it
a little inside the game Fortnite. We could do like a podcast while playing Fortnite. Like that'd be sweet. Just talk about random stuff. I got a duo. Got a squad.
He's coming.
He's knocked.
Anyways,
he's knocked.
Let's talk a little bit about Oregon, Indiana when we come back. I got to step aside for a quick moment. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about Dan Lanning specifically. Listen, I like the guy, but I think we got a new James Franklin in college football. So let's run that back. Let's talk a little bit about him and what this Oregon team looks like. Also, cheating
and it's not Michigan
against Indiana. Ooh, here we go again. We'll be right back. Let's talk about this when we come back on the other side of this break right here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play,
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
and start watching today. Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play,
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
and start watching today.
And welcome back in on Inside the Game. Boo-boo, finger guns.
Boo-boo. Oh, 6F.
Anyways.
Wow.
Moving on. Man, my parents won't stop doing that, dude.
They
Especially
won't
my mom.
Your parents
Yes.
won't stop doing not your little
Yes.
cousins.
No.
Wow.
No, because my mom's with the times, man. She's spazzy. Or it's not snazzy? What's the word? I don't know. Yeah, not spazzy. She ain't a spaz, but you know, she's with the times.
My uncle thinks who just turned 50, he thinks he's with the times too. And he was buying buckets of drinks this weekend, and he's like, I'm a bucket. I'm like, this isn't basketball. I was like, why are you even saying this? He's like, because the young kids at work say, oh, he's a bucket. I was like, they're probably referring to basketball players. They're referring to basketball players, not.
I got a bucket.
Not because you.
Therefore, I'm a bucket.
Yeah, not because we put this podcast together. We're a bucket. No, it's referring to basketball players.
That's great. Moving on to our college football conversation into hour 2 here of Inside the Game. So a lot to take away from Oregon and Indiana. Obviously, two sides of the aisle to this conversation. We want to talk about BTA, right? That's the big saying nowadays. That's exactly what it was. Let's face it, man. Oregon was at no point were they ever in that game. Maybe in the first quarter, but outside of that, I mean, Indiana just ran them off the field. I mean, they
pick six.
They exposed that offense. Dante Moore looked terrible. I mean, the turnovers. Oregon's offensive line just simply got exposed. It was bad. And I forgot to do the math before the show today, but I'm almost curious. Combined between Ohio State, maybe you can do some quick math here, Ryan, but between Ohio State last year and Oregon this year, how many combined points they gave up in those two playoff games is really starting to make people kind of look at Oregon and go, is this program starting to become the next, Notre Dame, if you will? Now, I realize Notre Dame made it to a championship last year, but the one knock on Notre Dame is they are the most routinely overrated football program in the country ever since they won their last national championship, back in, I don't even remember where it was, and it was years and years and years ago. What is it?
97 points. 56 to Indiana, 41 to Ohio State.
Oh, so 97 against two
Damn
Big Ten
50
opponents.
points a game.
Oh man, Dan Lanning. So let's talk about it a little bit. Obviously, they got straight up exposed. They had a cupcake schedule. They didn't win a Big Ten championship. They have the Oregon name, so obviously you know that they're already going to be in the running. There are just certain brands in college football that if you have that name, whether you're in Oregon, whether you're Bama, whether you're Michigan, whether you're Ohio State, like these are just certain programs that are going to get the benefit of the doubt regardless of the cupcake schedule they played, including OSU. They play two teams with a pulse, and they lose both games, all right? But that's a separate conversation. And no, I wouldn't consider Michigan a team with a pulse, not this year. But anyways, looking at this game, the comparison that I continue to think of, and it's funny because coming into the show, you actually laughed about it. You thought that I was taking the idea from you. Yeah. I was actually thinking about this all weekend. I didn't post a video. You posted a video. But comparing someone like Dan Lanning to James Franklin, which I think is a very accurate description, and here's why. James Franklin had a lot of success his first couple of seasons. Like, won a Big Ten championship, put that team on the map. But beyond that point, there was a reputation that always followed James Franklin, and it was Big Game James. We all knew him as Big Game James because he would find a way to make it to that game that he needed to win. Well, whether that be a Michigan game, whether that be against Ohio State, whoever, a playoff game, obviously last year, when he gets to that game, James Franklin chokes. And he has choked, and he made a career out of choking. Now, is James Franklin a bad coach? Absolutely not. James Franklin was great. He won a lot of football games.
And what he took over, too. What he took over at Penn State was really impressive. After the whole Paterno everything.
Yep. And so there's a lot to love about what James Franklin did. But at a certain point, Penn State in their front office had to sit down, look at each other, and go, hey, listen, We're a big brand. James Franklin has moved the goalposts. Okay, we're no longer in the post-Paterno era. We're no longer trying to build this into something that is just respectable anymore.
Again, Penn
Like,
State's
we're back
overrated too. 87 was their last natty.
No, yeah. I mean, Michigan's last natty was in 97 before they won it in 23. So, I mean, anyways, but moving on. He moved the goalposts, but now is he our guy to get us over the hump? And every single year, the answer was no. James Franklin could beat everybody else, but he couldn't beat the team that he absolutely needed to beat. And so at a certain point, that whole conversation of, well, could we do any better than him? You know, who else out there is going to be able to do what James Franklin does? At a certain point, that conversation stops. That's what Harbaugh, you're right. It took him a decade, man, to win damn near a decade to win a national championship. And we held on to him because we realized the guy still wins a lot of games. I mean, 2016, he was that close to beating Ohio State and going to a Big Ten championship and winning a national championship. I agree. I thought he was short too. But there were many years, but he finally got it done. But when I look at James Franklin, again, it was one of those things like, should you fire him? Because can you do better than where you are right now? Because he routinely gets you in the spot to win it, but he doesn't win it. We need to start having a serious conversation about Dan Lanning, because between Ohio State last year, again, they were not competitive. They were not competitive in that football game. They got gashed from the very beginning to the very end. Against Indiana, they were not competitive. They got gashed until the very end. Speaking of Penn State, a James Franklin-less Penn State actually put up a better fight against Indiana in the regular season than what Oregon did in the playoffs.
Down to the end.
And I'm not buying all this stuff from Dan Lanning. Oh, hey, we need to cut down on the amount of time off, and we need to. Those are excuses. You got dog walked for a second year in a row. You got smacked around on the national stage, and you're going to go back into the offseason, and come next year, it's going to be the same thing. Oregon's in the running to go win a national championship, and it's probably going to end the same exact way. I understand Dan Lanning's a really good coach. I get it. But is it time for Oregon to start thinking about moving on from Dan Lanning? Is it time for Oregon to say, hey, Dan got us to this point. You know, he took over a Mario Cristobal team, which, by the way, Mario Cristobal was good at Oregon. He wasn't great, but he was good. But is he the guy to get us over the hump? Because every year, year in and year out, Oregon finds a way to choke it away. And emphatically so. Emphatically so. I don't know. What says you?
I've said this for a couple of months now. I said that I said after the Indiana game, I said that I think there should start again. I think Dan Lanning's still a really good coach. Do I think Oregon should move on? No, I think he's still a young guy. He's only been a head coach for, I think this is his 4th season. But I still think he's a good coach. But I think you need to start having that narrative, that question that Harbaugh had for years and what James Franklin continues to have. I think you need to start having that narrative. And because if we just look at the time, if we look at his previous years, 2022, he got raced his first game ever, loses 49-3 to the eventual Georgia national champs. So that's a little tough start to have. He beats a ranked BYU team, whether you want to think that or not. For some reason, UCLA went stupid this year and was number 9 in the country when they played and won. He lost to a ranked Washington squad, beat Kyle Whittingham, now Michigan head coach, Utah Utes, and then lost to ranked former Michigan State head coach and Oregon State, Jonathan Smith. So, again, in his first year, that's a really difficult schedule. That is six ranked teams he played against. He ended up going 3-3. So, again, that's a little bit impressive. But then this is where it starts to get a little nervy if I'm Dan Lanning, if I'm an Oregon fan. So, 2023, this obviously was the Deion Sanders Colorado Buffs team. They just beat TCU, who was highly overrated in 2023. They were only there because they made the national championship the year prior. And that was the famous they're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins, which I thought was great at the time. I think it's a great speech. But again,
Good way to rally the guys.
His two biggest games of the year were to Michael Penix, that Roma Dunze #1 offense, Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. He loses both games. And again, national champs, so I guess there's that. But then we fast forward to to last year, and he beats Ohio State, wins the Big Ten, which, Nate, when James Franklin won the Big Ten, he beat Ohio State and won the Big Ten in the same year, correct?
Would be correct.
Oh, so everyone on social media just continues to prove my point that way. But then, you're right, gets killed by Ohio State. We go to this year, loses to Indiana, gets killed by Indiana yet again. So I think, again, I don't think he should get fired. I think he's still a young coach. He's got a bright mind. He recruits at a very high level. But there's something about him in a big spot, in a big moment, where it doesn't look good. And honestly, Nate, it looks like the Michigan teams against Ohio State during like the Shea Patterson era, where the game was over in the first quarter. That's what it looks like.
Yep.
He's a fraud. Yep. I wouldn't say a fraud, but in the big moments, again, I don't know how you say big game Dan or anything like that. I don't know if we could start saying that, but it looks bad. It looks bad.
In 4 years, don't get me wrong, 4 years is not enough to draw a conclusion on a head coach. I really don't. And he wins a lot, and he won right away. Like, this isn't a situation. I talk about James Franklin, and again, the comparison is not clear right down the line. Because, again, keep in mind, this year, James Franklin was what that team fell apart early in the season. Supposed to win a natty, and I remember people talking about it coming into the year. Like, Penn State's the most complete team in the Big Ten. They might be the most complete team in the country.
They had a blueprint.
They were anything but.
The Penn State blueprint was Michigan 23 and Ohio State 2024. Experienced quarterback, really experienced team. And then just to find out that Indiana actually had the same blueprint as Michigan and Ohio State, and they're the ones playing in the national championship. Also worth mentioning real quick, he's had 12-plus wins in 3 out of the 4 seasons Dan Lanning has, but...
So that's what I'm saying. So is saying, hey, should we consider moving out? That's a bit extreme. I'm just asking questions, right? Because I know there's some Oregon fans out there that are probably not. That's what I'm saying. And I know that there's probably some Oregon fans out there that are a little upset. 4 years is not enough to draw a conclusion on whether or not Dan Lanning is capable of getting this team over the hump. But what does Oregon have to do to win these big games? What do they have to do to be competitive in these big games? Because, again, there was nothing. Point to me one thing in that game against Indiana that went right for Oregon. One.
Their second drive of the game.
Okay.
That was it.
All right. I'll give you that. Or the offensive line was garbage.
It also doesn't help.
Moore. What's that?
It doesn't help when you also give Indiana like 20 yards of field to work with for like 3 drives. You also fumbled inside your red zone or inside your own 20 like 3 times. So that doesn't really help either.
Yeah. I mean, so that's when I look at all this, I realize that Oregon is not going anywhere. They're going to be in a good place. They're going to be in a good spot. But at what point do you start looking around and Dan Lanning has to really start to figure out, hey, how do we get this moving in the right direction? I also think it has a lot to do with, maybe it's time to switch up the way that they approach going out and getting players. And someone said this on Twitter after the game, and I thought this was a really interesting comparison. Indiana beat Oregon without a 5-star. Now, okay, that only matters for so much because the players that they do have, we talked about production versus potential.
Yep.
Players that Indiana have been productive in college football. And they've been around for years and years. And so Curt Cignetti had a very specific prototype when we went out to go get those players. Number one, he wanted experience and he wanted productivity. And he got both of those out of Indiana and continues to get out of it. Obviously, one win away from winning a national championship. But that was the strategy. Like, stars get you beat. I don't care about stars. That's what Curt Cignetti said. I don't care about stars. I want productivity. Do you have a resume in college football? If I can go out and get that, then we can build something and maybe go win a national championship. What does Oregon do better than anybody else or than a lot of people? They recruit.
Top 10 class every year.
They get top 10 class every single damn year.
He's had
They
two
get
top
some of the
threes.
top. Yes. And these are some of the best players in the country because he's a great recruiter. He is an absolutely great recruiter. And back when he wasn't a head coach, he was still a great recruiter. Again, he comes from the Saban tree. We talked about a lot of these coaches. So he understands uniquely how to get good talent, top talented players to come play for his program. But is it time for Dan Lanning in Oregon to start looking at the way college football is now and go, you know what? Maybe we're willing to recruit a few less 5-stars and actually go out and get guys who have been productive in their college careers and get a little bit more experience on this team to come play for us. Because again, having a crop of 5-stars, 18, 19, 20-year-olds is great. Again, there's a lot of potential in that. And I'm not saying that you stop recruiting high schoolers. Like this isn't an if this is this or that. It's not a this or that conversation. You can do both. But at one point, does Oregon go, hey, you know what? Yeah, we get top 5 recruiting classes. You know who else got top 10, top 5 recruiting classes? Brady Hoke. He's one of the best recruiters that's ever been at Michigan.
Lord.
He also wouldn't wear a headset.
That makes
and he
sense,
also
Brady.
Couldn't.
I forgot. He was
Now,
a
mind
really
you,
good recruiter. You think
he was a very good recruiter. Yes.
That whole
best player in the country.
That whole 2016 team was Brady Hoke recruits.
Yes.
For the most part.
And so it's one thing to be really good at recruiting. And obviously that was before NIL and transfer portal and all that other stuff. But now that you add that in, I believe that game between Oregon and Indiana, it wasn't just a clash of styles. It wasn't just a clash of two different schools from opposite sides of the country. That was a clash of blueprints. Indiana's blueprint was we want productivity. We're going to go get older players who have proven themselves already in the college ranks, and we're going to go win a national championship. Oregon was 5-stars, flash, cool uniforms, all this stuff that makes Oregon Oregon, but it didn't win them a national championship. As a matter of fact, it got them embarrassed on TV. Is that the new move for Dan Lanning in Oregon? Do they have to systematically change the way they target players and what players that they target? Because in my mind, right, if I'm an Oregon fan or if I'm someone that's in Eugene right now on a sports show, radio show, whatever, that's my main conversation. I'm okay with a few less 5-stars. I'm okay with a few less 18, 19-year-olds. Go get me a 22-year-old going into his 5th year that has already proven that he can be productive on the college level. Because if he's going up against a cornerback or a DB that's 19, guess who's winning that battle? Experience matters. And I think from a college football landscape perspective, that was a clash of blueprints on Saturday. It wasn't just two teams or two different programs. That was blueprints. And I think right now Indiana's blueprint is the one that's working.
So what I think that, again, what Cincinnati has done, again, this is not Indiana hate for the people out there that know that I dislike Indiana. I will say this. I do think, I don't know, again, time will tell, but I don't know if this is sustainable to bring in a brand new influx of players year after year. I just don't know if that's sustainable because, and I do think that the core of Indiana that can make this work is still there. I look at a Surratt, I look at a Fisher, I look at a D'Angelo Pons, I look at a couple of those players on that D-line. Like the JMU core that is making up Indiana is still there. I think Cignetti's done a really good job of bringing in other players like a Heisman Mendoza to develop. Like they develop their players really well, but I still feel like a core of that JMU player, that core of JMU players are still there. And if you look at the Michigan, Ohio State teams, they still had a core that they had come in as incoming freshmen or at least by sophomores that were there a year or so, and they kind of
that's true.
To fix their blind spots or fix their holes, they did it via the portal. With Oregon, again, Dante Moore is a portal guy, so he's from UCLA. He's developed there a little bit, but a lot of the Oregon players are a lot of Oregon guys, a lot of players that they took either after their freshman year or they got them through the recruiting classes through high school. So I think that what Oregon needs to start doing is, because again, we don't know if the Cignetti way is going to be sustainable over time. What we do know is that the old way of doing it is sustainable over time. We just don't know if it's going to work in today's day and age of college football. But I personally think the way that these programs should start looking at things is you kind of have a nucleus, kind of like look at the NFL, how teams are built. You kind of have a core group of players, a nucleus group of players that are through a dynasty or so, or through a Super Bowl window, but you kind of bring in new players every single year via free agency to plug and play here or via the draft. And I think that is, again, I just thought of this. This is so much like the NFL now. We talked about this, we joked about it, but it is. College football is totally like the NFL. But I think you have to find that nucleus of players, and then you use the portal to plug in those holes, fill in your blind spots. And I think Oregon needs to start doing that a little bit more. Fill in their blind spots a little bit, plug and play some dudes instead of just developing talent year in, year out. But I think that's the way to do it, because we talk about Indiana and they use the portal so well, which they have, but still a good chunk of their players that are key contributors have been with Cignetti for 2+ years. So that's the way I think Oregon should start to view and try to transform their team to compete a little bit on different levels. That's why, not to transition here so quickly and go into a different conversation, that's why I like the Lions trying to go out and get a Mike McDaniel, who's scheduled to interview this week for the offensive coordinator position for the Lions. That's why I like it, bringing in an outside guy, because he can view your blind spots. He can view where you struggle, and you might not see because you've been in the program or the franchise for so many years, where you don't see that because you have a way of working it. That's why I like bringing in new guys, new coaching year after year, because they can help you in a way where you don't even think to look.
Yeah, and James Franklin, or not James Franklin, Jesus, Dan Lanning, I understand that he is a great recruiter, but do they have that foundation? I mean, that's the other question, right? And Curt Cignetti has talked about not just players, right? Coaches have stuck with him for forever. That's another thing, that if you have consistency in that way, then I think everything else just kind of builds off of itself. But speaking of Indiana, definitely want to transition to this. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about Indiana. There was a tweet recently that was sent out. Do you have the graphic of that tweet?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about that when we come back right here on Inside the Game.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs.
From high-quality production to exceptional coverage,
We ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today
call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast.
and let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
What up? Welcome back. Episode 206 of Inside the Game. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky. Ryan, you said you got something for the folks?
Two things. Well, one of them's kind of more like of a personal thing for you and I. So obviously, you
Okay.
saw Michigan land J.J. Buchanan, the tight end / wide receiver out of Utah, and Anthony Broom, one of the insiders, actually tweeted his dad, Jeff, graduated from Allen Park Cabrini High School. And if you remember, Nate, we did the Allen Park Cabrini High School homecoming football game this past year. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was just cool to just point
that's
that
awesome.
out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But speaking of Oregon, I don't know if you just saw it, but Dylan Raiola has just committed to Oregon via the transfer portal. Whether you think Dylan Raiola is a good quarterback or not, that's up for people to decide. I personally don't think he's that good. But he does throw for a lot, and it's a lot of check down Charlies, in my opinion, for Raiola. But no, we just talked about them using the transfer portal. They have used it to then land a quarterback, which then means Dante Moore is most likely declaring for the NFL draft, and it's going to be most likely Mendoza #1 to the Raiders, Dante Moore #2 to the Jets. That's what I imagine. That's how the NFL draft is going to shake out, unless they want to take a chance on Carson Beck or something, which most likely won't happen. But no, still breaking news.
They got their guy. I mean, it's a quick turnaround in order to get your guy. I will say, I don't know. I think he's a good quarterback. I think Nebraska is just not great. They just what is their record against top 5 opponents?
Oregon?
Man, I saw Nebraska. Matt Rule's record. I think he's
horrible.
like 2-25 or something against top 25 opponents, like something like that. Like, listen, I like Matt Rule for the way he like looks at the world and the way he like his philosophy on things, but like, is he a great football coach? Fuck the hell.
Damn!
Heck no. Nope.
I
didn't say that. I didn't say that. But no, I do think is he Dante Moore? No, I don't think he is. Albeit Dante Moore did choke away that game against Indiana, but no, I don't quite think that's the case. But anyways, at least they got their guy. And I do agree. I do think he will go to the Jets. We'll see how it all shakes out. Obviously, the NFL draft is a wild time, especially when you got teams releasing things on players to try and tank their stock. You know how it goes. So anyways,
hopefully you don't have a Larry Tunsil incident.
Yes, jeez. Anyways, moving on to talk about Indiana. An interesting tweet emerged after Indiana's win. Guys, it's 2026. Of course, I say that. It in the 2020s, you cannot be really good without it being cheating, at least according to some fan bases. Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, again, this is not my tweet. This is nobody I know. Again, some people like to shoot the messenger. They shot me down last week because of Messi to Liverpool, and I even sent this tweet into a friend group chat, and they all thought I was the one making the tweet because Michigan football isn't good. I go, this isn't I'm just showing you guys what people are saying. This is not my tweet, nothing. So just need to put that out there. But again, this is what someone has said. Again, this isn't some verified source, but a couple of messenger boards have said this, and I think the bottom is it's almost like Indiana knows what play / look is coming almost every down. They are so well prepped, and someone who's a Lane Kiffin fan apparently says not only I didn't see any verifications or anything like that, but a couple of people have said this. Not only has Indiana been hacking into the VO / Pixelot software to watch practice film of other teams, VO are like the AI cameras for the people who don't know, but they have infiltrated most cloud-based systems which teams keep their game plans on. This includes opening scripts. Funny, they jumped the first route today and returned it for a pick 6. They know every sign and every variation the coaches on opposing teams plan for. Do I think this is true? Probably not. But I'm also just saying, if this is ever found out that Indiana cheated, I want the way fan bases treated Michigan. I forgot Connor Stallions was on the sideline for all the important games. I forgot, my bad. But for all the people that gave Michigan shit, Indiana should get the same thing. That's all I'm saying. That's all I want. If Michigan has it one way, Indiana's got to have it the same way. If it ever comes out to be true. That's all I'm saying.
Seeing the downfall of the SEC is on its face, right? Just watching them lose these games emphatically, may I add. Whether it be Diego Pavia losing to Iowa after talking about the Big Ten, whether it be Kellen DeBoer just getting at least it just washed away in the playoffs, Alabama just getting annihilated. Whether it be anybody else in the SEC who has lost this postseason, including Ole Miss, watching the downfall of the SEC just on its face on the field is very pleasing to the eye.
I'd agree.
The majority here's one thing I'll do that I never do. I'm gonna give Ohio State fans here credit really quick before I continue with that point. Ohio State fans, actually most of them, kind of like seeing Indiana succeed. They don't mind it. The ones that I've talked to, the ones that I've seen on social media, are not banging the drum about how Indiana's this or Indiana's that. They're applauding Indiana. They're like, well, that's cool. It's cool to see them succeed. It's cool to have them see them have success. We just won a national championship last year, right? Like, we're going to be in the fight. We're going to be in the conversation year in, year out. Indiana can do what they want to do. The SEC is so unbelievably insecure and loves smelling their own farts so much that there is no possible way anybody can beat them without cheating.
It's ironic.
Michigan couldn't do it without cheating, and now Indiana can't do it without cheating. There has to be some sort of logical explanation as to why these car dealerships in the South are not making the difference in college football anymore. Why they can't just be money bags and go out and win championships every single year. It's like the spoiled child who all of a sudden finds himself in a situation where everything isn't given to him. There's no way they could beat us straight up. There has to be something wrong. And now Oregon's in that mix too. What is it about nowadays programs having new success and everyone thinking that it's cheating, that somehow that there's some sort of nefarious thing going on here?
Because I think it has to do with Michigan. I do, because if you think about it, they went 2-4 the year before COVID, and if they didn't say they had COVID, they would have ended up like 2-6 or 2-7, whatever. But I think it has to do with, well, A, it's a denial thing. They don't want these new programs to be good. And two, I think it has to do with Michigan, because they went 2-4, then all of a sudden they're in the playoff the next year, and then they're in the playoff, then they're in the playoff, and then after all of it, they kind of suck a little bit. But it also comes down to the players. Like, you can hate on the Michigan National Championship all you want, but they had some dogs all over the place. I think they had 5 first-rounders. Look at Colson Loveland right now in the NFL. He had 7 receptions for 125 yards in a playoff game. They had a top 5 pick and a D tackle. Like, they had studs all over the place. I mean, I don't know how we don't know how the Indiana teams will share in terms of the NFL. We don't know how those players will do in the NFL. We don't know where they're drafted yet. But I think I just think it's the fact that there was such a quick turnaround that they all think it has something to do with cheating, because Michigan had a quick turnaround and they were cheating in terms of the signs. So I think that's what it has to do with.
I mean, to me, it's hogwash. And the thing is like, we literally, first of all, I need everybody to understand something really quick. Sign stealing has been a part of the game since the game started. If you don't understand that, stop watching football.
Wait, so this didn't just happen because Michigan did it, right?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, actually, no, it did. No, you're right. No, absolutely.
I thought Michigan invented sign stealing.
Everybody beforehand just came up with their plays and then went out and played. No one scouted. No one looked at signs. No one looked at sidelines. No one had advanced scouts. You know what's funny? We were talking about James Franklin a little bit earlier. I had a friend who worked in the athletic department at Penn State when James Franklin came in. You want to know how big that football front office became after he got there? I think they had about 12 people working for the football program. You want to guess how many people started working for the football program after James Franklin got there?
50.
75.
Jeez.
What the hell are they doing? Use your brain. What do you think they're doing? You think everyone's doing laundry? What, you think everyone's like pushing carts around and setting up for practice? Or we're all sitting around doing kumbaya, holding hands in a circle, Are you
Getting food?
dumb? Are you dumb? What do you think they've been doing? Sign stealing is not new in football. It has been going on since the beginning of time, and the NCAA needed someone to make an example of, and Jim Harbaugh in Michigan was that.
They also didn't like Harbaugh.
They also didn't like Harbaugh. Now, did they cheat? Did they do what they did? Yes. I don't think anybody's denying that. You want to know who else did it? Kirk Ferentz. But Kirk Ferentz didn't win a national championship, so Kirk Ferentz isn't going to get an earful for that.
Also doesn't want a Big Ten.
Only the programs that go on and win games are the ones that we look at and go, sign stealing must be cheating. Sign stealing has been a part of the game since the game, literally the inception of the game. It does not matter what you do. There is going to be sign stealing. Coaches talk to coaches. Players talk to players. All right. And most importantly, and this is how I know if you've never been in a football locker room before a single day in your life, if you don't think coaches change their signs and what they do in terms of player packages and formations week after week, you've never been in a locker room.
So
you don't understand how this game works.
So in 2022, when it was reported that Ohio State changed all their signs for the Michigan game and still won, wait, Stallions had won them the game? Like you're telling me that?
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
But Stallions still won the game.
Oh, I will never get over Stover. What's his name? What's his first
about
name?
the tight end
Yeah.
delay.
Yeah. It's a play in a package we've never run before, and they knew exactly what was coming. Well, if illegal scouting played into it, how the hell would we know it's coming if you've never run it before?
Wait,
what are you talking about?
Maybe that their signs told you exactly what was going to happen. I've said this forever. Michigan's nerd was just better than everyone else's nerd. That's all it was. And that's all it was. And Stallions has literally responded time and time again to that single comment, and he will break it down for you when they showed this. He goes, I looked to the signaler, and that is what they showed. That's literally what they did. Oh, gosh. I also think it's so ironic when the SEC gets mad about cheating. That's all I have to say. I think that's hilarious.
I say SEC because of the handle, the Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm assuming this is an SEC.
It's not just that account. It's like Coach Calipari trying to say the rules are the rules. Well, Cal, you put 2 schools on probation, and if if you weren't at Kentucky, there would have been a third. You're telling me you get five stars year after year? My bad. But also, if you want to stay away from the NCAA part, if you ever watch Aaron Rodgers' documentary about whatever it is that he did after he left the Packers to go to the Jets, he literally mentions when he got to Green Bay, he was there to steal signs while Brett Favre was out there. He himself said, I sat there and could tell you by the second half what the other team was doing on every single play. I just looked at their signalers. But Aaron Rodgers was in the NFL, so we can't do that because, no, everyone steals signs. In baseball, they steal signs in terms of if a player is whatever they're trying to do. Every third baseman and first baseman coach are doing.
Yep. Yep. Or at second base, looking in towards home. What's the catcher doing? What's the catcher doing? Tilting your head. Hey, he's going there. Hey, fastball. Or maybe shaking their hand a little bit. This is a part of it. And that's that's what drives me nuts more than anything, is that these are not people who understand. These are people who, again, are coming from a fan perspective, who have never been a part of it. They just don't understand. And so this is what is so frustrating to me about it. Sign stealing will be prevalent now. It will be prevalent in the future. They will find new ways to steal signs. And it's funny, right after the Michigan thing, guess what? They allowed radios in the headsets. Wow.
It's almost like the NFL did that for a decade.
Yeah. And so they allowed radios in the headsets. And so now, there's a new way in which they're cheating. It's not the old way in which they were cheating anymore. It's a new way in which they're doing it. Listen, it's been a part of the game then. It's a part of the game now. And I'll bring up what Deion Sanders had to say. It doesn't matter if they know what you're running. You have to stop it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the tools or the players or the personnel to be able to stop it or the coaching to be able to stop it, you're not going to stop it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so this idea that somehow we can just do away with do you realize how much is on the line when it comes to college football for these programs? Like, do people actually grasp how much is on the line?
Millions
Like,
and millions and
millions and millions of dollars. Everything, your entire athletic department hinges on the success of the football program.
No matter what school you go
If you
to.
don't, no matter what school, if you don't think this is like a Soviet Union secret spy, like CIA operation at every big time school, you are dense in the head. You are dense, and probably more dense than what I give you credit for. It's ridiculous. You're right. And the other thing I'll say about, and I know this conversation started about Indiana, now we're talking about Michigan.
Yeah.
The one thing that Stallion said, and if you don't want to believe him because you're like, oh, he's a cheater, he wouldn't tell the truth, then fine. I don't think the guy has anything to lose. What did he say in the beginning of that documentary, which I do think Tony Paul did a really good job with that documentary, but what did he say? Everybody has a guy.
Yeah.
And everybody's guy communicates with all the other guys.
That's why I said
There is literally, yeah.
Michigan's nerd was better than the other nerds. That's all I got to say.
Yes.
Michigan's
Yes.
nerd was better.
And so,
But the signs.
I-
the signs.
but my favorite thing that year was when Michigan State, where they were running to the sidelines to get their play calls, running to the sidelines. They won't stop us this way.
And Nate, if you and I were out there, we would have scored the same amount of points as that Michigan State team did. Oh,
Yeah.
Also, the Michigan State, they didn't want to play the game because, it's unsafe. We can't play it. Player safety.
Yeah.
So, because they know the plays, player safety is. And if you think that the players are if you think the signs are such an advantage in player safety, no one got viciously hurt because they knew the signs. No one did that. You actually beat Michigan when they had the signs in Kenneth Walker. There's a blueprint out there on how to beat that Michigan team between 2021 to 2023. It was called Go Fast. It's called No Huddle. And Michigan State did it. But can't say that, apparently.
Hey, you can play ineligible players all you want. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, you could
right?
do
That's
that.
cool. They don't need the grades. Who cares? Let's just throw them out there. The Michigan State way. Anyways, moving on. This is it's something that is, I just think is it's infuriating in a lot of ways, and it's just what Michigan did. It's not going to stop there. This is going to continue. Like, every new team that somehow finds a way to have success is going to have allegations of cheating against them. Indiana, get ready to learn lawyers. Okay. Get ready to learn lawyers. Get ready to learn all this other stuff. All right. And if you win a national championship and this becomes a bigger story and someone spreads a rumor, everyone's going to say the same exact thing. Oh, it didn't count.
And then all the journalists on Twitter, all the fans.
Yeah.
You see this? They went like this on a play.
All the fanboy. Yeah, exactly. You don't know what you're talking about. But moving on, let's talk a little bit about NFL playoffs before we get into our question of the day. Goodness gracious, Bears and Packers. You know what I said when we were previewing our matchups? I said, man, the Packers continue to find new and unique ways to lose football games. That's exactly what happened in that game against the Bears. Ryan, your main takeaway from what you saw in Packers-Bears.
Didn't watch a single down. I was at the 50th birthday party. But I will tell you this, Caleb Williams, thank you. $100 made because of you. That's my main takeaway. No, I'll say this based on, just kind of looking through again, I didn't watch highlights or anything. I probably should have, but I was doing a whole bunch of other things. I will say blowing a 21-3 lead. And what was the final score? 31-27, something like that. But yeah, 31-27. You scored 6 points and a half. You're not going to win many football games. Regardless of of how big of a lead you have, they were up 21-3 and you then proceeded to get outscored 28-6. Like, you're not going to win many football games. And again, I still don't think the Bears are this phenomenal team. I think the NFC West is miles above, as I said last week. And there's a reason why 3 of the final 4 teams in the NFC are all from the NFC West. There's a reason. It's because they're that good. But I will say, the Bears, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they can go down and then all of a sudden the second half, like maybe the Bears have the signs. I don't know. Maybe they have their signal calls because in the second half, all of a sudden something turns and they become really good, which is a sign that they have the signs. That's all I'm going to say. But no, the Packers, and again, I understand the Packers, how they want to get rid of Matt LaFleur all of a sudden because they lost. Yeah, they've technically they have not been as good. They've had a downfall since 2020, what was it, 2? When they went to they were that close from going to the NFC Championship game to play the Lions, and the Lions ultimately lost to the Niners. They've kind of been on a steady decline since, but at the same time, I don't think Jordan Love's that good. Jordan Love is not this insane.
No.
Jordan Love is not this great quarterback, but at the same time, the Packers are a franchise where they had Hall of Fame quarterback play for 40 years. Whether you like Brett Favre as Aaron Rodgers as a person or a player, that's up to you. But damn good football players. 40 years. 40 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play. And they won 2, 3 Super Bowls? I think 3. I think it's 3. I think Favre won 2. I think. But that's all you got. The Packers are not a franchise that's going to dominate in the playoffs year after year. They're not. We've seen it time and time again. Rodgers is, I think, 1-5, 1-4 in NFC title games. They just can't get it done in the playoffs. I don't know what it is, but they can't get it done. I'm sure Micah Parsons played a factor in this, and not being in there played a factor in this. But the Packers just can't get it done. That's my main takeaway, Nate, is the Packers are just not built for the playoffs. They just aren't. They haven't been to the Super Bowl in 15 years. They're not built for the playoffs. That's what it is. Granted, we can say as Lions fans, oh, you haven't been there. You've never been. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, your expectations year after year have been way higher than the Lions have been. Sure, we wanted to make the playoffs. That was the expectation this year. But that's the one time they failed to make expectations. The one time.
Yeah. I think Jordan Love is a little overrated, at least in my personal opinion. I just, listen, man, I don't think you get rid of Matt LaFleur, not just yet, but there is Jordan Love is, I think the expectations of what he is have not necessarily met of what we expected. But what we did say is that they found unique ways to lose games, and I'll admit to that. That's where I was wrong this week, because I thought the Pack would have a chance to go out and win it. I believe I picked them to win, and they should have. That game was in their control. Did you see the handshake at the end of the game, by the way? Did you see that video?
There's something weird about Ben Johnson. Like, I understand a lot of people think, like, again, they have a point where really good coaches are like psychopaths. But there's something about Ben Johnson that is a little corny, a little cringy, especially when it comes to the Packers. Nate, again, with the handshake, really weird. Was really Jim Schwartz, Jim Harbaugh-like. But there's something about, have you ever seen a coach say something about a team that you just beat the way Ben Johnson said about the Packers? I don't know if you saw the post-game locker room, but rips his shirt off. F the Packers. I effing hate them. They effing suck. What coach has ever said that? Like, about any team, whether that's someone beating Michigan, someone beating Ohio State, someone beating Auburn, somebody beating Alabama, somebody beating the Chiefs, somebody beating the 49ers, somebody beating the Patriots for a change. When has a coach ever said this? Like, it's just Ben Johnson's obsession with, again, that's another takeaway I've had. Ben Johnson's obsession about the Packers is really weird. Like, I get it. You hate your rival. That's your biggest game of the year. It's the playoffs. It's amped up a little bit. Like, I understand that. But what coach acts that way?
Yeah.
None. None of coaches ever done that in history.
Right.
I don't know what you think, but it's weird.
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly. No, I agree. And I mean, I don't hate the fact that he hates the Pack. I mean, I hate the Pack too, but to go out and say all that stuff is, you're right. That is,
at one point you got to be an adult.
Weird. It's immature. You have to be. And Ben Johnson is quickly turning into, we talked about these figures in sports, right? Sometimes that if they're on your side, if they're on your team, you absolutely love them.
Yep.
If they're not, you hate them. Ben Johnson is quickly becoming that in the NFL as a guy, as a coach, because he is someone that will win you a lot of games. I still think he's the best offensive mind in the National Football League.
Good offensive mind. I think Shanahan's better. My opinion, though.
Really?
I think Shanahan's a little better. That's my opinion.
That's fair. That's fair. But I still think I still in very high regard. But yes, very weird. And you talk about the most unlikable team in the National Football League. I don't even care. I don't even care that we're from Michigan and where you got that Lions flag behind you. They are the most unlikable team in the National Football League, without a doubt.
Can we go back to Caleb real quick? Where Caleb, again, it's funny, but like there's got to be some adults in the room with the Bears. It just seems like it's a kid's daycare where he's got the cheese grater and he's doing it on national television. Again, what team acts this way? The Bears. Again, you can say, "Oh, we haven't been good." Like again, the Bears haven't been good in a while. This is their best team in years, a decade plus, and it's a good football team. They have some really good football players. Caleb Williams is going to be a dog in the NFL for years. But at some point, you got to act a little bit. You got to act like an adult. Like Dan Campbell. Yeah. I don't remember the Lions or Dan Campbell acting like a child. Like, sure, his opening press conference, we're going to bite kneecaps. Again, weird, but that doesn't go out directly to a team or not. Jared Goff wins a playoff game. All they say is, they just hype each other up in the locker room. They're not saying F this team, F this, F that. It's just it's just weird, guys.
It's weird.
Act like an adult, Chicago.
Mark my words. The hangover effect will hit this team in the next game.
The Rams
the
are
hangover
damn good.
Effect. Hey, Ben Johnson, you want to spout off at the mouth? All right. We're going to learn something about you guys against the Rams. Hey, Caleb Williams, you wanna do the cheese grater on national TV
paint
after the game?
Again, Caleb.
Paint your nails. All right, yeah, we'll learn a thing or two against the Rams. There is a thing called the hangover effect, and I do think that Chicago is in for a rude awakening when they take off against LA.
Didn't even think that.
Without a further doubt, let's get into question of the day here really quick.
That's great. I love pissing off Bears fans too, by the way. I think it's awesome. But question of the day, of course, presented here at By Salt Athletic, an official sponsor of us at the National Soccer Network. Use promo code NSN15 to save 15% off that #1 smell-proof cleat pack. Again, you can use it for anything, not just cleats. You got a stinky, you got some stinky clothes. Works that too. Visit saltathletic.com today or scan that QR code. Again, I made this video a couple times on my own social media page, and it got some backlash. But, Nate, do you prefer to watch college football or the NFL? Again, doesn't have to be a college football playoff, doesn't have to be a Super Bowl, doesn't have to be playoffs. But if you're just sitting down for a weekend and you have something going on, whether that's a Saturday or something you get to choose, would you rather sit on that Saturday to watch football, or would you rather sit on Sunday to just watch football?
You know, I rarely get to just sit down and watch games. I wish I had more time to do that. But I'm going to go with college football. And the only reason being is because I just feel like the NFL, in a lot of ways, it is fun. It is a very nice product. Obviously, it's the best football players in the world. But there's just something about college because it means more to people because they are more personally connected to the product, right? Whether it be Michigan, obviously in my family history, with being at the University of Michigan and the chili tailgates and everything, whether it be Michigan State. I know a lot of people that have either gone to Michigan State or were a part of the band or were a part of anything else. Notre Dame, my best friend Luke works at Notre Dame, does different things at Notre Dame. So there is a personal connection to these schools. Now, obviously, with the introduction of NIL and all that stuff, it is changed because we don't have the same familiarity with the players that we used to. There used to be a time and day where we would look at certain players. My God, I'm turning into a ghost over here. Hold on, just a sec. All right, goodness gracious. There used to be a time where, we would look at these teams and like Chad Henne, like year after year, like I knew Chad Henne was going to be there. Mike Hart was going to be there. All those guys were going to be there. Obviously, that's different now. It's very different. Like, it's almost like a kid on Christmas. Like, you get to wait to see the kind of team that you're going to get year after year because it does change that much. So a little bit of that has changed the way that I've looked at it. But I still think there is, at least from an emotional perspective, there's so much more riding on college football in my mind than the NFL. Now, I want to see the Lions succeed, obviously, and it makes me emotional when things like, what happened a couple of years ago when they weren't able to finish off the second half and go to the Super Bowl. I look at my grandparents and I'm like, man, I just want them to do it once before they go.
Yeah.
I just want to see them just do it once before their time is up, because there's some franchises that someone said the other day that the NFL manufactures parity. I believe that was one of the comments on one of our videos.
Yeah.
Really? They do? When the Chiefs are winning how many Super Bowls and the Patriots won how many Super Bowls? The parity? My ass. But anyways, moving on. Like, I don't, that is the one thing about the NFL is fun, right? Because it is the whole state of Michigan pulling for the Lions. And I do like that camaraderie. But there is more of an emotional connection in my mind to college athletics than there ever will be in the NFL, from my perspective.
Yeah, I won't disagree that the NFL is a better product. It is. That's where all the pros are. That's where the best football is played, and that's ultimately where everyone eventually wants to get to. And I'll also say I just like the energy. I like the atmosphere. I like everything about it. Yeah, people tailgate for NFL games. I'm not discrediting that. People get going, but at the same time, there's like a limit to what people can do because it's Sunday and most people have to work on Monday and have to start the work week. So there's that. And I just like the atmosphere a lot better. I like the energy. I like the traditions. To your friend about Oregon, I dig the shout tradition. I think it's awesome, especially with Animal House. Almost stepped on it. Phenomenal movie. Yeah, the cord over here got stuck here for a second. Let's move that back to the table. But no, I think it's amazing. I think Enter Sandman's the best college football entrance of all time. I think it's better. I think Clemson's is phenomenal. I love everything about it. And it's the exact opposite in terms of outside of, the way things are being worked off the field. But everything on the field, outside of the playing part, it's better than the NFL. And I also think the rivalries are so much better. Look at Michigan, Ohio State. Look at Auburn, Alabama. Look at Texas, Oklahoma. It's better than anything that the Packers and Bears. I mean, sure, the play's better, but the hatred's not there. You don't have that in the NFL, and I like that. And I like the fact that teams and players and coaches hate each other. I'm maybe sounding a little bit hypocritical here about what I just said about the Bears. That there might be that, but again, they're also college kids and they're not adults like those ones are.
Right.
And they also don't do stuff like that. They don't say that on social media. But no, I think it's better. I think the rivalries are better.
Yeah.
And I like the energy. That's mainly what it boils down to. Is I think the atmosphere and the energy is a lot better than anything in the NFL. If there's a blowout in the NFL, no one really watches it. But if you blow out a really good team or a rival in college football, like everyone's jumping up and down, celebrating. The fans are loving it. The fans are trolling the other teams. Like that's what it is. And I prefer college football to the NFL just for the like fun energy part.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of this stuff around college football, it feels like it's turning into the NFL.
Yeah.
But there will always be things about college football that are different than what the NFL is. And so I think for certain people, it makes it better. But hey, if I don't have an emotional connection to a team, I'm probably saying the NFL. And I know certain people that are like that. They just don't have any personal connection. They didn't grow up on it. So anyways, that'll wrap up Inside the Game, episode 206. Appreciate all you guys stopping by. Again, make sure you go National Soccer Network, wherever you find us on social media. Get in there. Also get in on the conversation here on Inside the Game. We'd love to hear what you have to say. But coming up tomorrow, we'll have another one, again, 9 to 11 a.m., Monday through Friday. Keep it locked to our social media channels. We'll be posting clips all week. And until we talk to you guys tomorrow, that's Ryan Glinsky. I'm Nate Wangler. You've been watching Inside the Game.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.